Hi, everybody. My name is Elizabeth McLean, and I am the Recreation Programming Specialist here with Maury County Parks and Recreation. And we are so excited to have Greg Bearden with Middle Tennessee Hiking Adventures here today to walk us through his 10 Essential Items program. So I'll hand it over to Greg, and then we'll also open up for Q&A at the end of the program. You should see a chat box available. So around the time when Greg is finished up, feel free to send in any questions you have, and we'll answer them here live with you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and I appreciate, Elizabeth, the opportunity to be here today. We're going to be talking about the 10 essential items that one should have with them on a hiking trail should an unexpected emergency happen. These are items that will provide some level of comfort while you're injured or lost or any other number of reasons. Could be simply if you're hungry or thirsty. So we'll go through those. And first thing I want to talk to you about is shelter. Now, keep in mind, we don't want this this really heavy. We want it rather lightweight. So these are some items that I've come up with and studied about and actually used, and they do work. So again, this is, I always say, this is not something that is going to be life-threatening to save your life. In that regard, these do provide a level of comfort, and we'll be talking about trail safety a little bit later as we get to the first aid part. So first, a garbage bag and Mylar blanket. This is just one of these little, also called an emergency blanket, and a poncho will provide a level of shelter. It will be a waterproof shelter. Put those on, and you can prop up against a tree, but it does provide some against the rain if you have to spend the night. And I don't want to make it scary sounding through this, but I mean, that is a possibility. And other people have gotten injured because they lack just the smallest items that could have meant the difference between a comfortable night and a very uncomfortable or life-threatening condition. So shelter is very important. You can use this in any combination. The next thing that I want to talk about is navigation. Now, I like this little whistle and compass combination. However, I do want to say, with a map and a compass, if you don't know how to use it and you're off the trail, stay put. Don't try to figure out how to use a map and compass while you're lost. That'll just, as my word I like to use, you'll just get loster. So put this away. And I do want everyone who ventures onto a trail, even if it's a day hike, to have some level of knowledge of the trail that you're going on, whether it's just a trail map at the ranger station or print a PDF off online. Orient yourself where you're at, generally speaking, and keep that in mind. But again, take a navigational class. I teach those, and they're really fun. But if you don't know the compass and map, how to use those together, don't try to learn at that point in time. Another thing is navigation. Now, one of the, communication. I like to have a little notebook and a small pencil. So if you need to write notes, if you did have to get off the trail for just a few feet, do that. But the surveyor's flagging, bright orange flagging, you can hang this in the tree with a tiny note, take a sheet of paper, make a note, and say, hey, I'm 10 feet off the trail. Because that's where rescuers and searchers are going to start their search, is on the trail. Also in communication, the FRS, Family Radio Service. These are small radios. You can get these on Amazon or Walmart. They're very cheap and inexpensive. I recommend, if there are a party of 2 or 3 or 4 in your group, each one have a radio. Learn how to use this, again, before you go on the trail. You'll be hearing me say this for over the next few minutes. Learn how to use all these things before you go on the trail. And you turn it to a specific channel. You talk, they listen, back and forth. So Radios can be important. And while we're talking about communication, I want to talk a little bit about mobile phones. Mobile phones are not trustworthy in the woods. Yes, cell towers are everywhere now, and there are more areas that do provide service, but do not depend on cell phones for rescue. You need to take care of yourself first, and then have some other means to, and that's why we're talking about this, is all this stuff help you take care of yourself. But again, cell phones, they might work, and if they do, that's fine. Sometimes they can't talk. You can't use voice, but you can use text. So keep that in mind as well. Of course, cell phone, they do have a flashlight on it, and for the kids, you may want to have a game downloaded or two. They may have their own phones, but again, don't rely on those solely for rescue because the signal may not work. Lighting, this is important, and especially for younger kids, if they are lost off the trail. I like to have glow sticks. Now, you can get these glow sticks at the dollar store. Usually they're like 3 or 4 for $1. They're inexpensive. Or you can buy the ones that are $2 to $3. Now, those simply last a lot longer, a couple of days. I've done tests on them. The smaller ones from the dollar store last about 6 hours or so, but they do provide light and as a beacon for rescue party if they're searching at night. I do highly recommend, I'm not going to try not to blind everybody, but a headlamp. And I want people, I love a headlamp because it does free up your hands. However, if you've got one of the regular flashlights, that's fine too. Something's better than nothing. But the headlamp provides you to do other things with your hands. Keep the batteries out unless it's got a safety shutoff switch on the headlamp. And again, you don't have to spend a lot of money on these. There are some cheaper ones that are good. You can always get in touch with me and I can talk to you about those, what I feel are the best headlamps. But you don't want to accidentally have the light on inadvertently, running your batteries down and when you need it. Extra clothing. Now, I say that a bandana is one of the most useful items you could ever have on the trail. I read one website, over 80 uses for a bandana. So it can be used as perhaps a water filter or a bandage, tear it in strips and use it for shoestring or cordage if you need to tie something up. But again, a dust mask, wrap it on your head. I've used this before sleeping as a cover on my ears. So anyway, very useful. I do recommend having a pair of gloves and a toboggan, what I call a toboggan, just a cap, because when you're cold, the heat escapes from your head. You know, if you're cold, put on a cap. If you're having to stay at night in the woods, like we talked about, in your garbage bag, emergency blanket shelter, hat and gloves are very needed. So those will come in handy. First aid. You can buy any number of first aid kits. This is just a small giveaway kit, and it's got a few Band-Aids in it, and that's about it. You can customize this, and I do encourage parents, if they have children with special needs, such as an EpiPen or some type of special medicine, and even for you as adults, have that within your kit as well. I have found that I do not need the travel size kit to take in the woods. I've not used that in years. When I first started, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get cut and stabbed and everything else. I'm going to need these tourniquets and different things. But for just your typical day hike, I recommend just a few Band-Aids, some athletic tape, a couple of gauze pads, maybe some Benadryl if you're allergic to bee stings, and maybe some ibuprofen for you. And that's about it. That's just what I use. It can be. I think it should be made for each individual use. Just individualize that. Warmth. I used to call this fire, but as I talked to some kids, I didn't really want them playing with matches and lighters. Parents may not approve on that, and that's okay. So for warmth, you may have seen these little hand warmers. Those work great. You just simply open it, activate it by shaking, and it does heat up, and you can put this in your garbage bag shelter. And so these are good, and they are not flammable, so you don't have to worry about catching the woods on fire or the children getting burned. Now, if you are old enough to start a fire, there are some of these little tinder packets. Again, you can get these at Walmart or order them online. And one of the cheapest things that I have found is a tea candle. Now, and just a little lighter. Tea candle, what that does is that allows you a flame for about, I don't know, half an hour or so to get your tinder to create a fire, to build a fire. And as a side note, if you're thinking of building a fire, learn how to do that in a non-emergency condition. I've taught that to my nieces, my nephews. I've taught this to lots of folks that have never been around fires. They've just always seen it magically happen from the parents and the fire starter logs in fireplaces. So we can talk about that at some point in the future, but it's really easy. And I encourage you, again, know how to start a fire before you have to start a fire. Tools. Again, for kids, and as you can see, I'm really concentrating on the kids because I think this is really important. Adults and parents, for a kid to have something of this, it provides them a level of comfort and safety. And when they know how to use these things, it's scary in the woods. You hear noises that you don't normally hear during the daytime. Around here, it's not uncommon to hear coyotes and owls, and those things can be scary to a youngster. So we want to give them a level of comfort on that. So with tools, perhaps instead of a knife, they're not old enough for that, have a pair of fingernail clippers, because if they are old enough where they could use some rope to make some type of a little shelter, I don't know, or to hang the glow stick somewhere in a tree for visibility, the fingernail clippers will cut the paracord. So this is, again, just a very utilitarian rope that you can get it online or at Walmart. I like a little length of Velcro. Velcro has about like a bandana. It has a multitude of uses. And also along with that, about 3 or 4 feet of duct tape. Duct tape, I've used that before to patch the poncho, my raincoat, and blisters. I don't recommend that with blisters. I'd rather use athletic tape or moleskin for blisters on your feet. But I mean, it does work. It's very, very useful. I like this is a Leatherman Micra, and it does have scissors. I really like scissors better than a knife blade anyway. They're more safe, and because I'm using it 99% of the time to just cut through something, and where scissors do work. A couple of perhaps zip ties if you need. They're great for strapping, also to repair shoes, or if your belt breaks, you can use this as go through a couple of belt loops as a belt. So they're very useful items. Most of these items have more than one use. So that's another thing that I like to emphasize, is the more items that are redundant or useful for different purposes, the lighter this little kit's going to be. Food and water. What kind of food would we want in a day bag? Well, again, I'm not advertising for Cliff Bar, but it is one of the industry standards on trails. It does provide about 260 calories. It's dense, it's good, and it does provide a level of nutrition. and it's just a compact food source. Now, this is something that I think all kids should have, and adults. The little squeeze pouches of apples, and you get all sorts of different flavors. If you've got young kids, you know all about these, but a couple of those. Now, keep in mind, this is just for an overnight thing. If kids were lost, or adults, this is just something to get you through the night. And or water bottles, a couple of the water bottles. Now, I personally like the smaller bottles, 2 or 3 or 4 of these. Why do I say that? Well, a larger bottle, if it were to get a hole in it, you've lost all your water. With these, you lose one of the smaller bottles, you still have 2 or 3 of the others. I would recommend at least a liter. With these, it would be about four small bottles. The bag, how do I carry this stuff? Well, you can find these little bags. You probably already got them. They're just a drawstring bag, very easy. And also, if you're exploring on a day hike, you may want to take a journal or a bird identification book or page, maybe some I don't know, sunglasses, or maybe a cushion or a small blow up pillow. These bags are very handy for that. Put everything in Ziploc bags. A lot of this stuff is not waterproof, and to have the Ziploc bags is good. It's just a good resource to have. You can also put some of these bags on your hands and feet for insulation. Hey, been there, done that. It does work for insulation. I know as a kid, my mom would put bread bags on our feet to go out into the snow and play. And I'm like, what's this for? But it does provide, it's waterproof, and it does provide a level of insulation as well. So look that up, and I think you'll be impressed with the bread bags. That is all that I have on the items. I've gone over it rather quickly, but I'm open to talking, answering some questions. So, Elizabeth?
Yeah, all right. Thank you again so much. That was a great program, and we just want to open it up now. If you have any questions, feel free to submit those in the chat, and Greg can help answer them. And while maybe you're thinking up some questions, I have some for Greg. I'd love to hear maybe what is your favorite hike in Maury County, and then one of your favorite hikes in Tennessee.
Sure. Well, I'll start with the Tennessee. We were just talking about Foster Falls, which is in the South Cumberland Park.
Mm-hmm.
And this is about an hour and a half away. It is down I-24 going toward Chattanooga. You'll see some of the exits there. But the Cumberland Plateau is beautiful, and it's got a waterfall, Foster Falls. Look that up. And in Middle Tennessee, one of the newest trails that is here in Maury County specifically is the Unali Park. It's about a 1.7 mile concrete trail. It's got a few ups and downs, but it's got restroom facilities, great parking. And I'm really plugging that for Maury County because it really is a family-friendly trail. You can take your dogs, kids ride their bicycles, and they're going to be expanding on this park as well here in the near future with some more primitive trails. I was talking and kidding with Elizabeth. If you want a trail where you might twist an ankle or be a little more ambitious on walking the normal hiking trails, what we call the normal trails, that will be available. And I think also some camping, primitive camping or something is going to be there. So that's one of my, another local place that I do enjoy and I like to promote is the Natchez Trace Parkway. We're about 40 minutes, it's about 40 minutes west of Columbia, Spring Hill, and a portion of that does run across Maury County, Maury, Hickman, and Lewis County. There's a lot of historical significance on the Natchez Trace. It's 444-mile road from Nashville to Natchez, Mississippi. It was an old trade route people used to use, and but it's also got a lot of hiking trails, especially around the Meriwether Lewis burial site, Lewis and Clark Expedition. Probably heard of that. So again, those are my favorite Maury County trails. There are a couple others, but those really do work for me.
Let's see. We got, so Paula said, thanks, Greg, and good information.
Wonderful. You're so well. Oh, hey, Paula. Paula was with us on our hike last Saturday. She and I are amateur radio operators together.
Nice.
So we've been friends for several years now. Thank you for your comment.
And I'll go ahead and take this moment to say as well that Greg will be leading a hike with us at Yanali Park for National Trails Day on June 5th. So it's a couple of months out, but just keep your eyes peeled for more information and an RSVP for that in the future. And thank you again, Paula, for your nice comments, and thank you, Greg. This will be posted on our YouTube, so if you want to come back and watch it again later or share it, you can find it on YouTube, and we'll also be sharing it on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.